This evening, first up, fatal collision. A 64-year-old Georgetown man loses his life in a morning crash along Heroes Highway. What investigators say could cause the deadly accident. Plus, domestic violence horror. A mother's gone down. Her husband takes his own life, and their young son is left wounded. Another tragic case reignites urgent call for action against gender-based violence. Also, global drug bust. A Guyanese woman is caught in Bangladesh with more than $2.3 billion worth of cocaine hidden in her luggage. The latest on how she was caught and what comes next. Meanwhile, cross-border terror. Two Guyanese men were allegedly abducted by the Venezuelan syndicato gang along the Cuyuni River. What survivors saw and the fight now on to bring them home. And trade war escalates. The U.S. doubles tariffs on Indian goods in retaliation for Russian oil purchases. How the move could shake global markets. All this and more coming up on Headline News Update. Stay with us. Welcome to this broadcast of Channel 2's Headline News Update for August 27, 2025. I'm Bibi Bacchus. Thank you for joining us. First up, a 64-year-old Georgetown man lost his life early this morning in a collision at the intersection of Heroes Highway and the Mocha Access Road as police launched an investigation into the fatal crash. The accident occurred around 5:30 a.m. this morning at the intersection of the eastern carriageway of Heroes Highway and the Mocha Main Access Road on the east bank of the Demerara. The crash involved a motor lorry GAH 9771 driven by 29-year-old Arif Hanif of Coven John, East Coast Demerara, and a motor car PAH 7906 driven by 64-year-old Charles Richards of Sandybab Street, Kitty, Georgetown. Investigators said Richards was driving east along the Mocha Access Road when he failed to stop at a clearly marked sign and drove into the path of the lorry, which was heading south along Heroes Highway. The collision left both vehicles damaged. Richards sustained severe head and body injuries and was pronounced dead at the scene by emergency medical personnel. His body was taken to the Memorial Gardens Funeral Home mortuary for a post-mortem examination. Police confirmed that the lorry driver tested negative for alcohol. The police continue to investigate the circumstances surrounding the crash, which serves as a tragic reminder of the importance of obeying traffic signals and exercising caution on the nation's roadways. In other news, a brutal case of domestic violence has once again rocked the nation, ending in tragedy on Tuesday when a 36-year-old Georgetown woman was gunned down by her husband, who then turned the weapon on himself. Their 10-year-old son was also shot during the attack, but survived and remains hospitalized in stable condition. The suspected murder-suicide that left 36-year-old Tekidia Atiya Solomon dead and her husband Alroy Solomon also deceased after turning the weapon on himself. The couple's 10-year-old son was shot and injured during the attack, but is in stable condition at the Georgetown Public Hospital. The incident occurred at Charlotte and Border Street, Georgetown, where Tekidia had been living with her son after leaving the marital home in Northeast La Penitence due to ongoing domestic issues. According to investigators, Alroy arrived at the residence in a black motor car, stormed into the compound, and opened fire on his wife. She attempted to flee, but collapsed after being struck multiple times in the front of her apartment. Alroy then shot his son before fatally shooting himself. Authorities recovered a 9mm pistol and several rounds at the scene. Both bodies were taken to the Memorial Gardens Funeral Home, pending post-mortem examinations. The tragedy has drawn national attention to domestic violence, which continues to claim lives across Guyana. President Dr. Mohamed Irfan Ali expressed deep sorrow, extending condolences to the family and pledging support for the young survivor. Minister of Human Services and Social Security Dr. Vinay Prasad condemned the act, stressing domestic violence remains a deadly crisis. She urged families to seek available state support, including shelters, legal aid, and psychosocial services before situations escalate to tragedy. This case adds to a growing list of tragedies this year, as several women in Guyana, including Marissa Beat, Kanisha Vaughn, Bibi Fazila Khan, Janelle Polidor, Mizona Pondola, and Jolie David, among others, who have been murdered in 2025 alone by their partners after previously enduring or reporting abuse. It underscores the urgent need for timely intervention stronger community vigilance, and greater use of support systems to protect women and children before domestic dispute turn fatal. If you or someone you know is experiencing domestic violence, immediate assistance is available through the Ministry of Human Services and Social Security 914 hotline. The Ghana Police Force is investigating a deadly road accident that claimed the lives of 3 people on the Suicide Linden Highway near Lou Creek on Tuesday, August 26th. The collision involved motor lorry GXX 1546 driven by 73-year-old Lionel Campbell of Kurukururu Village with one unknown occupant, and motor lorry GAG 313 driven by 29-year-old Venezuelan national Carlos Yasmin with a female Venezuelan passenger identified only as Millie. According to preliminary reports, GAG 313 was traveling north along the western drive lane at a high speed when Yasmin observed a car ahead, braking suddenly to avoid a pothole. In an attempt to avoid colliding with the car, Yasmin swerved in a northeastern direction, inadvertently crossing into the path of lorry GXX 1546, which was traveling south on the eastern lane. The collision caused Yasmin's truck to catch fire. The female passenger, Millie, was trapped in the front left seat and died as a result of the fire. The driver, Yasmin, was rescued by passbyers and sustained multiple injuries, including lacerations and a broken left foot. He was transported to the Georgetown Public Hospital in stable condition. Meanwhile, the lorry driver of GXX 1546, Lionel Campbell, along with his unknown passenger, also suffered severe injuries and were pronounced dead at the scene by emergency medical technicians. The bodies of all 3 deceased were taken to the pensioners' mortuary in Linden for post-mortem examination. Police investigations are ongoing, with officers looking into the exact circumstances of the crash, including vehicle speed, road conditions, and adherence to traffic regulations. This tragic accident underscores the risk associated with high-speed travel on Ghana's highways. It emphasizes the importance of vigilance among all road users, particularly in areas where roadworks are ongoing and driving conditions are challenging. Stick around when we return. Guyanese woman held in Dhaka with $2.3 billion worth of cocaine, and police probe alleged abduction of 2 Guyanese men by Venezuelan gang.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's the moment you've been waiting for. Step right up because it's time for Digicel's $12 million punch and win. Top up with just $1,000 or more for a shot at winning up to $2 million weekly. That's right, up to $2 million weekly. 6 weeks, $2 million per week. Will you be one of our lucky winners? There's only one way to find out. Top up, punch, and win. Only with Digicel. Digicel, better connected.
Hi, Miss Shirley. Miss Shirley, help me out now, please. Why everyone telling me I must exercise my right to vote? Me ain't got time for that. Why must I vote?
Why must you vote? That is your constitutional right and civic duty, my child. Besides, think about this. Government officials make decisions that affect the well-being of you, your family, and community. By voting for a party of your choice, you will be electing the people who will be making these very important decisions. If you don't vote, then you will allow the people who vote to choose government officials without your input. Those others may not share your views about issues that matter to you.
Wait. Is so much voting means to me? And I done playing the fool? I definitely gonna vote on election day.
For more information, contact the GCOM on 225-02779 or visit www.gcom.org.gy.
Sneakily with a gift of sight from Modern Optical Services. Let our professional team examine and prescribe what's best for your eyes. Current smiles make fashionable faces. See us for a full line of optical services, including brand name and prescription eyewear. Modern Optical Services, 316 Middle Street, Georgetown. Telephone 226-1082.
Good girl forget things.
What's the problem, Granny?
I want money for borrow for do a surgery. I was dancing and I fall and fracture my hip.
If you need some quick money, you should check Lender's Jewelry and Pawn Shop.
Lender's Jewelry and Pawn Shop, Lot 238 South Road Border, Georgetown. Get jewelry made to order in just 72 hours. We also accept vehicles. Lender's, best rates, longest payback period.
Boys, I get through. Plus, I could dance again.
Lender's Jewelry and Pawn Shop.
Welcome back. A Guyanese woman is in custody in Bangladesh after authorities intercepted her at Dhaka's International Airport with more than 2.3 billion Guyanese dollars worth of cocaine concealed in her luggage. Authorities in Bangladesh arrested the Guyanese woman after a search unearthed the cocaine at Dhaka's Hazrat Shahjal International Airport on Tuesday. The suspect, identified as Karin Petroulis Tafli, arrived on a Qatar Airways flight from Doha early Tuesday morning. Customs intelligence officers stated that she was intercepted after completing her on-arrival visa process and attempting to pass through the Green Channel. A search of her luggage uncovered over 8 kilograms of cocaine hidden in 22 foil wrap packages inside 3 plastic jars. Tests by the Department of Narcotics Control confirmed the substance. Officials said Staffley was taken into custody and faces charges of smuggling under Bangladesh Penal Code and Customs Act. Authorities says investigations are ongoing. In other news, police in Region 7 have launched an investigation into the alleged abduction of 2 Guyanese men by a Venezuelan syndicato gang operating along the Cuyuni River. One of the men has been identified as 66-year-old boat captain Frederick Pollard of Bartica, who went missing on August 24th while transporting fuel from Ikirukut Backdam to Devil Hold Landing. His son, Damian Williams, told investigators that his father last made contact before departing with an unknown male passenger. The following day, Williams reported receiving a call claiming the gang near Botonamu Creek had forcibly held Pollard. Further reports emerged when Venezuelan boat captain Colin Matthews and 9 passengers recounted being intercepted by syndicato members at Blackwater Mouth. They said the gang took them into a creek at gunpoint, where they saw Pollard and other men alive. The gang later seized a drum of fuel before releasing the group. Police have since taken statement from all 10 individuals who corroborated Matthews' account. Authorities said the investigation remains active, with regional law enforcement intensifying efforts to track the movements of the syndicato gang and secure the safe return of Pollard and the other missing man. On a different note, the management of Lima Regional Hospital in Region 2 has dismissed social media reports suggesting that a recent patient death was due to a lack of oxygen. Regional Health Officer Dr. Ranjeev Singh clarified that a 19-year-old male with a history of sickle cell disease and suspected leukemia died on August 23rd after being admitted in critical condition. Despite receiving immediate treatment, including oxygen therapy, CPR, defibrillation, and emergency medications, he could not be saved. Dr. Singh emphasized that oxygen was readily available at the hospital and the medical team responded swiftly and professionally. He described the reports as false, malicious, and misleading, emphasizing that the patient's death resulted from severe complications of his chronic illness. The ministry is urging citizens to seek information from credible sources and avoid spreading unverified claims, noting that misinformation only undermines public confidence in the healthcare system and the dedicated professionals working to save lives. Don't go away after the break. Chile battles corruption as authorities confront organized crime. And Mexico rejects Trump's call for U.S. military intervention to fight drug cartels.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's the moment you've been waiting for. Step right up because it's time for Digicel's $12 million punch and win. Top up with just $1,000 or more for a shot at winning up to $2 million weekly. That's right, up to $2 million weekly. 6 weeks, $2 million per week. Will you be one of our lucky winners? There's only one way to find out. Top up, punch, and win. Only with Digicel. Digicel, better connected.
Good girl forget things.
What's the problem, Granny?
I want money for borrow for do a surgery. I was dancing and I fall and fracture my hip.
If you need some quick money, you should check Lender's Jewelry and Pawn Shop.
Lender's Jewelry and Pawn Shop, Lot 238 South Road Border, Georgetown. Get jewelry made to order in just 72 hours. We also accept vehicles. Lenders, best rates, longest payback period.
Boys, I get through. Plus, I could dance again.
Lender's Jewelry and Pawn Shop.
Sneakily with a gift of sight from Modern Optical Services. Let our professional team examine and prescribe what's best for your eyes. Common smiles make fashionable faces. See us for a full line of optical services, including brand name and prescription eyewear. Modern Optical Services, 316 Middle Street, Georgetown. Telephone 226-1082.
What's going on here, man? Why the two of y'all look so gloomy?
Uncle Joe, you know thief man been in the house and thief all the valuables, including the ID card. Now election come wrong and we want to go vote. We ain't get no ID card to identify ourselves. Now we can't go vote.
Well, you need to apply to GCOM to have your ID cards replaced. But you need not worry that you won't be able to vote because you don't have your ID cards. GCOM has put other measures in place to accurately identify voters like you who may not have the ID cards.
But how they gonna do that? How they gonna know is we name on the list if we don't have ID to prove it?
In addition to your ID card, voters can present their valid passports or valid driver's license if they have these.
Really?
But further, GCOM has placed your photograph alongside your name on a folio which will be at the polling station. And if you go to the polling station without a photo ID, you will be asked to state your name and address. The elections official will look at your face and then compare it with the photo alongside your name on the folio to confirm that they are the same. Then you'll have to answer some questions to verify your identity. If the election official is satisfied that you are the person who you claim to be, you will be allowed to vote after taking an oath of identity.
So you get for vote?
For more information, contact the GCOM on 225-02779 or visit www.gcom.org.gy.
Welcome back. Now we take a look at what's happening in the region and around the world.
Good evening, I am Nikita Ford. Welcome to our regional and international news segment, which keeps you informed and up to date with a trending news story worldwide. Caribbean nations are joining Washington's new offensive against international drug trafficking. Trinidad and Tobago pledged full support with Prime Minister Kamala Persad-Bissessar welcoming U.S. assistance to combat narco violence. Guyana also endorsed the initiative, stressing the need of strong cooperation to fight Venezuelan cartel de los Soles and protect regional security. Meanwhile, in South America, Chile, long considered one of South America's least corrupt nations, is facing a troubling challenge. Al Jazeera Latin America editor Lucia Newman reports.
Alto Hospicio in northern Chile is one of the first stops for organized crime groups penetrating the country, like Venezuela's Tren de Aragua.
The organization began to commit crimes we hadn't seen before in the Tarapacá region. Crimes like human trafficking, kidnapping, gruesome murders and extortion. We've been able to deal some strong blows against them.
But now a potentially more serious dimension of organized crime has surfaced. For weeks, Tarapacá's chief prosecutor and police had used drones to observe these men in Alto Hospicio, seen here loading drugs into high-end black cars. When they began driving to the capital last month, their vehicles were stopped and scanned, revealing 191 kilos of cocaine, worth more than $3 million. The gang members belonged to none other than the army.
Certain people in the army tipped us off that there was something strange going on, and we began our criminal investigation with a very effective team of criminal analysts. We saw that they were living far beyond their means.
7 army officers and one of their wives have been charged with organized crime and drug trafficking. The news shocked Chile, but in fact, it may be just the tip of the iceberg. Just 230 kilometers north of Alto Hospicio is the border with Bolivia, one of the world's 3 largest producers of cocaine. The army and police are unable to guard 860 kilometers of desert frontier.
This border is also the entry point for hundreds of thousands of undocumented migrants. And between drug and migrant smuggling, the naive presumption that the fortitude and professionalism of Chile's armed institutions makes them impenetrable to organized crime is now crumbling.
5 Air Force officers have been caught trying to smuggle drugs by plane from here to the capital. Earlier, 14 policemen were arrested for allowing Bolivian truck drivers into the country without inspection, presumably carrying drugs for the Tren de Aragua. Chile's Social Security Minister acknowledges the latest discoveries are a serious blow to national security. But he tells Al Jazeera they're in time to stop organized crime from penetrating armed institutions as in other Latin American countries.
Chile has strong institutions, which is vital, but we can't just rely on proactive measures like better internal controls and more robust laws. We also need to strengthen international police cooperation.
The biggest challenge, he says, is to prevent contact with organized crime from turning into contagion. The hope is that it isn't too late. Lucia Newman, Al Jazeera, Iquique, Chile.
Mexico is firmly pushing back against the idea of U.S. military intervention on its soil after it emerged that U.S. President Donald Trump directed the Department of Defense to target drug cartel in Latin America. Al Jazeera John Hammonds reports.
Yes. Almost every day for the past 2 weeks, Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum has had to answer variants on the same question.
El presidente de Estados Unidos, Donald Trump.
Will she let US forces into Mexico? It started when President Trump signed an order directing the US military to target cartels. Not here, said Sheinbaum.
The United States is not going to come to Mexico with the military. We cooperate, we collaborate, but there will be no invasion. That is out of the question, absolutely out of the question.
She might have thought her point was made, but then, just over a week later, the US Drug Enforcement Agency, the DEA, said it was launching a cross-border operation with Mexican investigators. But Sheinbaum said her government hadn't been told.
The DEA puts out the statement. We don't know what it's based on. We haven't reached any agreement with the DEA.
It's an uptick in tension, but the Trump administration has been pressing Mexico for some time to stop the flow of illegal drugs to the US and offering to send troops to do that.
If Mexico wanted help with the cartels, we would be honored to go in and do it. I told her that. I would be honored to go in and do it.
But Sheinbaum's always rejected that and said Mexico's already handling the problem. Operations against cartels have risen, and fentanyl seizures at the border have dropped by more than 50% in the last year. Mexico's also sent more than 50 suspected cartel members to the US, 26 of them this month. The Mexican government might have thought that with all that, it had done enough to avoid the US looking to operate south of the border. Perhaps not. And now this has become a political test for President Sheinbaum. How much can she resist? A lot of Mexicans are extremely prickly about United States involvement in their country. You have to remember that it was less than 200 years ago that the US invaded and then took more than half of their land. And there have been more recent cases of unwelcome interference. And while some Mexicans would want to see the US take more of a direct role in combating the cartels here, more would disapprove of it. Sheinbaum has meanwhile been clear that Mexico's already collaborating with the US in stopping drugs. She said the two countries have also drafted a new security agreement to be signed imminently. The problem is that, right now, President Trump may want more than Mexico is willing to offer. John Holman, Al Jazeera, Mexico City.
Finally, the United States has doubled tariffs on many imports from India to 50%, as U.S. President Donald Trump followed through on his threat to punish New Delhi for buying discounted Russian oil. Al Jazeera Victoria Gatembi reports.
At this shoe factory in Agra in northern India, exporters are bracing for higher costs. Their products now face some of the steepest tariffs anywhere when shipped to the United States. Business owners say the extra charges imposed by the Trump administration will backfire because some of the costs are likely to be passed on to American consumers.
This is absolutely a shock. This 50%, 25% tariff and 25% penal tariff, that's definitely a shock to the industry. But we have many shock absorbers also.
The US accuses India of helping to fund Russia's war in Ukraine by continuing to buy its oil. India relies on Russia for about a third of its energy imports. Prime Minister Narendra Modi says energy purchases will continue despite the new tariffs. He's pledged to protect India's economy from the impact.
My country's small-scale businessmen, farmers, animal keepers. I keep on promising to everyone again and again that for Modi, your well-being is paramount.
Electronics and pharmaceutical exports remain exempt from the additional tariffs. Analysts say small and medium-sized companies that employ high numbers of workers on low wages will be hardest hit.
But what it does is that it has very severe impact on very few labor-intensive items where the margins are very thin and the competitive or the peer tariff rates are much lower than that of India. So we see much severe impact, let's say, on textiles, garments, gems and jewelries.
Critics say President Trump's policies could push India closer to Russia and China. Each, along with Brazil, are founding members of the BRICS group of nations. India's central bank has promised subsidies to cushion the impact of the tariffs, but Modi's wider message is clear. India must become more self-reliant. Victoria Gatenby, Al Jazeera.
Thanks, Nikita. This brings us to the end of our regional and global news coverage. Up next is the 3D weather forecast. And that's Safety B2 headline news for this Wednesday evening. As we take our leave, we invite you to follow us on Facebook and YouTube. You can tune in tomorrow at 6:30 a.m. for a rebroadcast and at 7 p.m. for more news. Until then, please take care of yourselves and each other.